Welcome to Market to Shelf Mastery, the podcast where we talk to food and drink founders about their transition from market stall to retail shelf. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Mike Crozier, who is the founder of Angel's Dare Cocktails. So welcome, Mike, and thank you for joining me.
Well, you're very welcome. Delighted we could get a chance to sit down and chat about all things Angel's Dare and cocktails.
So tell us a bit about Angel's Dare. So what is it and where did it start?
Sure. So before it was cans, it was me in hospitality. We're going to go back to how it all kind of started. So I had about a 25-year career in hospitality, which all fell apart when the world stopped turning through COVID. So Angel's Dare started off as Angel Share Cocktails as a wee local delivery service around Dumbarton, Helensburgh and Balloch. And that evolved into a full-time job with some investment right from the start. And then we created Angel's Dare Cocktails. So Angel's Dare is essentially a brand of kind of premium RTD cocktails, really fruit-led, sweet spot ABV of 8%. And we're lightly sparkling, just helps carry all the flavours and just gives a bit more fun to it. And then what we really tried to do with Angel's Dare is just not be another single colour with a varietal on the shelf. So we're actually really, our branding is really kind of bold and energetic, unapologetically bold, to be honest. We've got a lady with lips for a head, we've got a dapper Highland cow, we've got a parrot in a suit, so we've got all kinds of things that just make us stand out in the shelf. So we started there from that kind of lockdown sanity project. We've grown Angel's Dare to be that kind of recognised brand across the UK, trading at events every week and going from strength to strength.
So Angel's Dare was a lockdown, like purpose project or passion project, as you could call it.
Absolutely. So I kind of went from, my dad was a public, so I kind of cut my teeth in my dad's pubs, 16, 17, washing dishes, collecting glasses, and then went from pubs to branded restaurants to fine dining to eventually hotel management. So that was my kind of career path. Really, I kind of fell into that kind of no furlough kind of browse when I'd started a job not long after it all stopped turning. I was like, all right, well, bills to pay, mouths to feed. What do we do here? So I thought, I make a pretty decent cocktail. Let's see if we can get away with this. So, and then we did. So we just out the back of my friend's bar in Balloch, we kind of used that as our base for making the cocktails and delivering them out. And our first weekend was like 20 cocktails in 30 to 40. We're doing about maybe 300 to 400 cocktails a weekend around Balloch and Helensburgh and Dumbarton. And then we thought, well, maybe something in this. And then lo and behold, my wife kind of said, look, if you get to 50 and you've still got an itch to scratch, the locks are getting changed and you'll find your suitcase in the porch. So
you mean age 50?
Yeah. So I was like, I was like, do you know what? You're right. Just let's have a crack at it.
Brilliant. So essentially, to start with, you were selling as direct to consumer as you possibly can get.
Yeah, so set up a wee Facebook page and literally just me, who can barely take a decent selfie, try to do content way back in the day before content management was a thing, and just try to get ourselves out there. And yeah, people, I think because I was fairly well known in the area, because I stayed quite local in my latter career with hospitality, so people were like, we know Michael, we know what we can do, let's give it a crack. And folk were desperate for that interaction and that out-of-home, in-home experience as well. It was so important. I mean, it seems in many ways a distant memory. I mean, my timelines are so skewed. Everybody asks me a lot. My timelines are so skewed and all, but you think back, as soon as you had that first glimpse and that first tick in the box, you can see somebody again. What are you going to do? You're going to raise a glass, you're going to say hello to your pals and have a cocktail, have a beer, So, when it was the barbecues were out, it was garden parties, you could have your pals, and it was like, we just rode that wave and just gained that momentum right from the start, which gave me the confidence to go look for investment. And luckily we got somebody who saw the potential early on to take us from plastic bottles and sticky labels into that first can production.
Amazing. So you were selling direct to consumer by essentially delivering to people's homes.
Yeah.
When you could then get out, did you then go to markets? Were you doing the market circuit?
Our first year, so again, you don't know what you don't know. And there's usually the old adage, isn't it? So way back, so our first year was pretty much all events. And I think we had that kind of false sense of, is it really this easy to sell cocktails? Actually, when you look back retrospectively, the year that we started going out to markets was the first year that people were allowed to go back out in full force. So they had that energy, they had that kind of enthusiasm for spending money. They maybe had a bit of furlough backed up on top of wages. They maybe hadn't been spending as much money. So there was a bit more cash in circulation when we started. And we were flying rampant in events. We thought, okay, here we go, we've nailed it. So now we started off doing the Lomond Shores, doing your traditional kind of local farmers markets. We dipped our toe in a few of the bigger events at the SEC and a couple of other things as well, which again was an absolute eye opener as well. So you're going from doing £300-400 at Loman Shores, thinking that's not bad for 3 hours work. We're doing okay
Yeah.
here, and then I think our first crazy show was an event called Girls Day Out, and they don't do it anymore. It's a shame. It was a good show. I think we took something like £8,000 in 3 days. And
Wow.
it was just absolutely bonkers. And we thought, we've cracked it. This time next year, Rodney. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's a doddle. We've sorted it. We've absolutely cracked it. We've cracked the code. And then, reality kicks in. Actually, it's not just about putting cocktails in a can. It's actually, how do you grow? How do you market? How do you PR? How do you expand what you're doing? So all these things that you don't really have an appreciation of. As much as I consider myself a good hospitality operator, it's a very different way of operating a business and actually doing it for yourself and actually having to brand yourself and actually having to push yourself out to bigger fields and get people believing in what you're doing. So what that first year let us do was be that point of difference in the RTD market, which is also booming out. So it's the only subcategory in real growth still, the RTD. So everybody's jumping on it. So we got on quite early and really started to establish ourselves as sort of somebody who had potential in Scotland, so that's what we did there. So people were coming looking for us to go to the events. We thought, brilliant, they're liking what we're doing. We're full of energy, that kind of naive energy, just throw yourself into everything and just get it going. And that's where it all kind of stemmed from. So events, standalone markets, some bigger events, and then moved into retail. Sort of, we got our first listing probably 6 months in from being open. So yeah.
So talk to me about that. So talk to me about the process behind that first listing. So how did you get it? What did it feel like?
I think process is being a very flattering term. I think there was no process. It was like, right.
Before you talk to me about that, was that intentional? Did they come to you or did you go to them?
Oh, no. We were very much the instigators of any kind of initial reach. But we're now getting more interest from people having seen us, and we're kind of, I hate the term organically, but we're organically growing into more venues now because people see what we're doing. And I think when people see you're not just a flash in the pan, year and a half business, they start to trust what you're doing. You've shown a bit of metal about yourself. You've kind of ridden a bit of a storm. You're still doing what you're doing. You've not kind of devalued your own values. You're still sticking to the all natural flavours, like the sparkling. You're not just going. And again, there's an absolute place for them. People do them very well, but we don't do porn star martinis. We don't do cosmopolitans. We don't do French martinis. We do very different style of cocktails, a bit more unique, a bit more interesting flavour combos that make us stand out in the shelf as well. So I think that's kind of where we were there.
So talk to us about the, in inverted commas, process, which led you to secure your first retail listing.
I think it was literally like an Instagram or a Facebook message or an email saying, hi, how do we started this company? We've had the real success at events, so I listed the events we've been to. We're starting to look to try to secure some shelf space. We're interested in a chat. And I think it was actual kind of farm shop listing was the Smithy in Stirling, Blair Drum and Smithy. So they've been on board since we were 6 months old. So went in, chatted to the team there. And like,
so you sent them a message on social media?
I thought, let's just start there and just see how we're doing, because also we'd started to be a bit more consistent with our content, so it looked a bit more professional in the grid, so you get a bit more confident what you're selling to. I think had we went into, well, retrospectively, you maybe do things differently, but I think the way we did it, we thought, right, we'll do events, we'll do markets, build a name, and then that gives us something to talk about as opposed to trying to sell something that's blind to somebody.
Proof of concept, essentially.
Yeah. So, and they were in and they were like, yeah, it's really cool. We love your stuff. What's going on? We actually saw you at an event. Brilliant. That's great. What's your price? And we're like, right, okay. So I haven't kind of got that far. So again,
because you hadn't been selling wholesale, essentially, you'd been selling direct. So you had one price, which was your recommended retail price.
Back, and then I'm taking it as testament as to people really trusting the brand and what we're doing and could see the potential in it. So when we first started, God, we had an on-shelf price of £6.50. We had to sell a cocktail at £6.50 to make margin because our productions were so small. We were doing all the procurement ourselves, so everybody. So if I was working with 6 or 7 flavour houses, each of those people are taking a cut of their margin. So your margin gets diluted quite quickly because you're not just working with one procurement turnkey kind of company, which we do now. So we were having to sell in at $3.65 a can for them to sell at $6.50 to make their 33%. So when you think about it, that's wild.
Yeah. Was 33% a number that they told you that they needed?
The low 30s was kind of like a standard retail margin. So I kind of did my work back on that, which kind of got us to that space. And interesting enough, because of how we've grown, we've actually managed to protect that margin, but at a much lower cost price now as well. So actually, we've managed to protect the retailer's margin, protect their own margin, but also you have that quantum growth because you're at a more sellable price point. So we learnt loads. So the Smitty took us on. We did our first tasting with them, so it was great. And I think what was really kind of exciting as well. And it's still exciting is when one of your pals sends you a picture of your product.
Yeah,
because we're now stocked from London to John O'Groats, so we've got stockers right across the country. So people are like, "Oh, I saw you here, saw you there," and that buzz never leaves you. That's cool.
So tell me about that buzz. So did you go into that retailer prior to doing the in-store event?
That would have been a process, Lisa. That would have been sensible.
Yeah.
No, we didn't even walk in and do competitor comparison or anything. We didn't look at the shelf space. We just walked in and went, "Hey, we've got a cool product. Fancy stocking it?" So I think I think being able to chat to people and having that kind of background of hospitality was a natural kind of like connection of what we're doing.
And also local, that is still so relevant.
Exactly,
isn't it?
yeah. So we were only 30 minutes from Stirling from Dumbarton, so it's not a million miles. Which you have that kind of provenance piece as well, which is really important what you're doing as well. So it's like, provenance and price and, productivity, so all these kind of things that you can now delve into, how do you keep it relevant? How do you kind of keep the brand building and those kind of key headlines? So they were great. So they took us on, and then I wouldn't say snowball, but yeah, we definitely kind of then started building up. And then I think we were still very, very heavy in events, still trying to grow it on the side. So,
and what did that look like for you? Like as the founder, like if you were still doing events, which predominantly a weekend, so were you working 7 days a week?
7 days was a quiet week. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so yeah, and it's still the same. We're still a small. We've been fortunate. We've grown enough that I've now got a full-time salesperson on board, which helps. But we're still event heavy, which is that's your direct cash and your trade stuff comes through. That's
what keeps cash flow going, isn't it?
Absolutely. So no, I think year one we get our first listen after kind of 6 months, and then I think we went from 1 to about maybe 40 in that first kind of 8-9 months. So again, farm shops, delis, all independent. Nothing national. I mean, not nationals only started to come really in the last 6 months, to be honest. So, but no, that kind of grew from there. A few hotels took us into their mini bars and that kind of thing as well, so that was really cool as well, being able to kind of quote you in a loft, or the AC Marriott was stocking you in their pantry in the rooms. That was another kind of different buzz as well. It showed that the on-trade could see a place for it as well as the off-trade, so that kind of gave it more confidence to go and speak to the on-trade as well, and that was great. So yeah, kind of snowballed from there, and then you'll probably find us in most, though you'll find us in nearly all the destination farm shops in Scotland. Your Balgoes, your Lochleven's Larder, your Glow Burns, House of Brewer, all these kind of places, so we're listed with all the kind of main players there, as well as your lovely independent bottle shops and delis that care so much about their product as well. And I think that comes through. I think when we're chatting, we just keep it very natural. We don't hit you with a sales pitch, hit you with a chat. It's like, "Hi, how you doing? Do you have 5 minutes? Do you have a wee chat? Are you okay just to show you some products?" And I say more and more, because that has been our approach, people see you as a person, not as a salesperson, if that kind of makes sense. Does that make sense? You're just there just having a chat, and just see what you can come up with.
Because when you're speaking to independents, essentially it's two business owners having a conversation.
Massively, yeah. Then those don't hurt so much because that's just part of the gig. Do you know what I mean? And actually the yeses are still huge, every yes is a win, of course it is, but you also learn how to counteract or deflect the no. You say, well, so if we get a challenge on price point, so I'm more, I say, it's quite expensive. I say, what's it expensive compared to what you're comparing me to? Oh, and that puts them a slightly in the back foot, like not in a positive back foot. So you're actually asking them to explain the no, but without being bullish about it. Say, well, what am I expensive compared to? What can we work on? What can we do to make it more appealing for you? So that just comes with confidence and just being aware of your brand and worth, I suppose.
It's really interesting because I had a one-to-one with a founder last week, and we talked really specifically about the no process and how to sort of embrace that and celebrate the no's, but more importantly to ask for feedback. And I think not everyone is prepared to give it, and that's fine. And like you say, you don't want to be confrontational in, well, why is it a no? But I think it helps you as a new brand. It helps you actually move forward, doesn't it, to understand where you're coming across those objections.
And I think more and more, again, we were so grateful for everybody that believed in us right in the start, especially at that price point. Having, because again, we're asking people to, where we were at 650 was a considered purchase opposed to an impulse purchase. So, where we are now, it's more impulse. So you'll buy three instead of one. So at the price point we're at now, it's
Yeah.
475 on the shelf. So we've came down a fair chunk on the shelf. Which has been great for us. So I think for everybody that believed us right from the start, which they still stock us. Because they're then getting the benefit of the rate of sale and the better price. That we also do some more tastings with them. They get the extra bits and pieces along the way as well for the support, like all our stockers do. I think the danger with a no is that if you react the wrong way, that no will always be a no. But
Yeah, it's a really good point.
If you have that bit of confidence to say, do you know what, that's great. Listen, I appreciate what you're saying. I love your stock. I love the product. I love the value. Sell the positivity of why you're going to make a difference to the range. And I think, it is quite cliched, sell the solution, not the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and all these things work. They're cliches for a reason, because actually, if you get into the mantra of then sell them in your own way, or put them into your own kind of mindset, okay, so right now you're only selling this product. If you sell these products, that becomes a date night product, or becomes a bit more interesting. You're only selling the high ABV cocktails. Not really wants a 22% cocktail. So. And all these cocktails have their place, and I say people do them very well, but there's a place for every kind of, you talk about end occasions, all these terms you start to come across and learn as you start to develop your own kind of business acumen, so that's great. So that suits that end occasion. We can make that end occasion, we can be part of your hamper, so actually sell things that they're maybe not thinking about as well, so it's just become, that confidence comes to being more confident in your brand, and more confident what you deliver for that person, which you don't have been 6 months old. Never tell someone you're the best, tell them you're good. Be confident what you're doing, but if you go and tell someone you're the best, prove it. It leaves a space open to interact with.
So there was a process, although technically, you don't want to give it that label. So you got your first.
Yeah.
Quite quickly, you went on to grow from 1 to 40 independent retail listings. You also got into some, on-trade locations as well. So each time you acquired a new listing, how did you take that learning or that process onto the next one to help you secure something bigger? So you talk about snowball. So where did it take you next? The 1 to 40 to several on trade?
I think what it does, it just kind of compounds your story, it gives you a bigger story to tell. So actually you walk up with a bit more confidence, you can now quote who you are, you can now tell somebody actually.
And did you do that? Did you drop that in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've now had real success with these dozen farm shops, and again, you've got to drive your own learning as well, so it's like, okay, when I first saw ROS in an email, I was like, what the hell is ROS? What's, I was like, rate of sale, right, that makes sense. When did they last order? So, but, until, because I'd never used those terms in traditional hospitality, we use spend per head, speed of service, all these different terms, they're intertwined, but they always migrate in the same kind of terminology, if that makes sense, so that was great. So you learn these terms, that's great, that's what we're doing here, this is what we can do for you. Yeah, we're having real success here. And in fact, you know what? We do the farmers market 10 miles away from me, and we sold out last week. So it's like anything. If you're not embellishing at the start in sales, you're not really selling. You still got to be able to sell a story and sell the reason you're doing it. So, did we sell out to every farmers market? No, of course we didn't. That's part of the gig. We had a really successful day, but we sold here, we sell there, and that's where we're going next. So that all helped.
So learning to speak the language as well, you say, is important, understanding what they're going to ask for before they actually ask for it.
But also having the confidence, not being pressured by the nose. Actually, if someone says, do you know what, we're quite new, I've never heard that term. What do you mean by that? Because I probably know what you mean. I've just not heard that term before. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, we can do that. And don't be embarrassed about asking for further understanding. As long as you're not leaving yourself open to being mucked about, for what better phrase. As long as you can see that as an honest interaction.
It's I don't know the answer. It's similar to I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll find out for you.
Massively.
And we all talk in jargon. In fact, we've started this talking about RTD, and we should just caveat that RTD means ready to drink, and then there is also RTS, which is ready to serve. So again, the same thing. If you don't know, you don't know.
And interestingly, we use RTS more for on-trade because that gives them the impression of it's ready to serve and be part of an experience.
Interesting.
So we kind of distinguish RTD, ready to drink on the shelf, RTS as an on-trade experience. So
that's really interesting.
So,
I like that.
Yeah.
So has there been a biggie that has made you think, whoa, we didn't see that one coming and we're here now. We have arrived in terms
Do you know
from a
what?
retail listing point of
Retail's,
view.
yeah. Do you know what? I think, yes, we have got some quite tasty listings now. So we're not supermarket level. I don't have the production capabilities or the bank balance to look at supermarkets. It's not just because, again, with that, it's not just the first stock in it. It's how do you replenish that stock, and actually how do you actually keep on top of that. So that we're not even looking supermarkets just now at all. We joined Scotland Food and Drink, which has been a huge kind of help for us. They've been very insightful with kind of introductions, and they do regional showcasing events and stuff like that as well. So through that, we landed ScotRail. So the only cocktail on board ScotRail. We got our first wholesaler. This is only recently. Bidfood as our wholesale partner. Alongside that, we're also now on TransPennine Express. We are listed in 65 WH Smith travel hubs, down south. So with WH Smith, there's a bit of a pay to play. We know that, but again, it was all part of the bigger kind of travel momentum as well. So that's a big part of it where we see the brand going as well.
Did you take a train just so that you could order one of your cocktails?
Of course.
I love that. I love that.
So hashtag journey juice. So that was fun as well. So yeah, so I would say with that, we're still probably quite independent retailer driven. We've just got more of them now, So, and I think with Bidfood also, we're trying to cultivate that relationship so we can kind of migrate some of the accounts onto Bidfood to help them scale up with their account as well as them being open about where they're stocked as well, so we can support with tastings and additional POS and stuff as well through their accounts as well. So that's been interesting as well, the whole wholesale piece as well, because obviously the purpose of that is to kind of grow your brand and let them kind of facilitate the growth alongside you as well. So I think we're up to 300 stockists now. I think about 300, and that's off trade, on trade, travel. So we've kind of ticked the initial boxes we wanted to. I think our challenge now is to take that from where we are and then find maybe the smaller multis, your Margiottas, your Booths, your Blue Diamond Garden Centres, your Klondike groups who have got multiple units who can then take you into 6 or 7, 8, 10, 12. And then that lets you grow into dealing with multis, and it gives you exposure to different types of conversations as well. We've seen the on-trade embracing it more recently as well. I think way back when, I think we'd both agree that when the can stuff came out, it was pretty terrible right at the start. It wasn't good because of what we're doing, and not just us. But I think there's been a whole kind of canned revolution. The whole kind of canned cocktail revolution has really came on leaps and bounds. So the on-trade can understand the benefit of all the terms I was used to: speed of service, wastage, all these things. Well, so there is no wastage. There is nobody using Grey Goose instead of Smirnoff. There is nobody kind of change the recipe halfway through the shift. It's a consistent product. Your margin's the same every time. So all of a sudden you get the guys going, oh, that's tasty, and it makes sense.
And that really helps in the hospitality sector where they don't have the skill level that they once had in terms of mixologists and people behind the bar that can actually, like you say, consistently serve the same level cocktail.
And I think we know, and we're not so naive, precious. We know there'll always be a place for the smoke and mirrors and the theatre, and that's part of and that's such an important part of the cocktail experience as well. Because you go somewhere and maybe you're paying 30 quid for a cocktail, you're wanting the smoke and the mirrors, you're wanting the shake, you're wanting the fans, and we appreciate that as well. But we always say we can run alongside you. So if you're a hotel, we can be in your pantry, we can be in your minibar, we can still give that guest experience a proper cocktail when they're not at the bar. Or sometimes what we see as well, you'll get these places and sometimes they're just so busy that actually it can become detrimental to their service. Or actually, we give them an option they can actually just migrate to. Do you know what? This is the cocktails we're doing. Or your two staff that do cocktails are both phoned in sick. Do you know?
Yeah.
So that skill set taken off your rota, we can step in, be a cocktail for you. So sell the solution.
And that's really interesting as well, and actually really useful in terms of, like you said, selling the solution, which is, no, we don't want to replace, we want to enhance.
Absolutely.
So just let me go back a little bit. So Angel's Dare started, so how long have you actively been trading?
So with the cans, we've been trading for about 4 years with the cans.
Brilliant. Yeah. So in 4 years, you've managed to build your retailer portfolio to 300.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So can I just ask about, you mentioned about getting in with wholesalers. So you're with Bid Food.
Yeah.
So again, like the process, was that an introduction through the networks that you were in
Yeah.
within Scotland?
So that was through Scotland Food and Drink at one of their showcase
Brilliant.
events. We went to events that we should never have been at because we were far too early on in our evolution and our stories. We went to Farm Shop in Delhi in year one. That was just a $5,000 donation. That's all that was. Do you know what I mean? That was never, in hindsight, that was never going to work. Our price point was horrific. We had no story to tell. We barely had a sales deck. Do you know?
Yeah.
So okay, if we do it next year, we've got price points, we've got multiple price points, we know how to play the game now, you know. So
Is that a hindsight thing? Can you say that now with the benefit of hindsight? Or so if somebody is listening thinking, right, I'm going to sign up for Farm Shop and Deli, but I'm only a year in, is that wise? Is that something that you would recommend waiting to do?
on our experience, it's such a well-attended show. It's the right show at the right time for you.
Yeah. And it can, like you say, it can be detrimental. So if you go and you're not ready, that can be.
If you go and you're not ready, we left feeling a bit stupid after Farm Shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, oh, we really need to learn this.
Yeah.
You know, so it was 3 days of no's. 3 days of no's.
But was it no's with constructive feedback, or was it just flat
No,
no's?
because at that time we were probably too precious to ask for the feedback. It was a no's like, oh, all right, okay. Thanks anyway. Use your samples. You know,
Yeah. Oh.
They all hate us, you know. So, but no, I think again that comes with like, I mean, I'm a pretty outward going, confident guy, you know. So I didn't mean, but I think even then I was like, right, we were sitting for dinner the last night. We thought we all kind of went, we weren't quite ready for that, were we?
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah.
so okay, and that's okay.
Great self-awareness. You know, that's really good to have that awareness.
Now, if you're a company that has managed to get serious investment right from the start and your model is retail and you've managed to bypass the farmers market stage and you can go in with somebody in the background who has built FMCG and understands the groundwork and understands the playing field, and you get that support by your side right from the start, is it the right show? Possibly. Do you know?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure AU Vodka didn't go to a farmer's market.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a prime. You know, they probably went heavy retail. They understood their model, understood what they're doing, and they're doing what they're doing really well, and that's great. So, I think depending on where you are, maybe financially, capabilities wise, production wise, knowledge wise, in your corner, could you do it early? Yeah, it wasn't right for us at the start. I think coming from hospitality, living that instant experience, you know, so that's where we're kind of in that instant all the time, and we weren't really forecasting 6 months, a year ahead. We were kind of like, cool, where we going this weekend?
Yeah. You know? No, that's so insightful, and also such, well, you know, like you say, an expensive lesson, but albeit a lesson.
Absolutely.
And just so building on that, like, is there anything, so 4 years on, is there anything that you think, oh crikey, I wish I'd known that at the start, it would have made me approach things differently?
Yeah, I think if we could do it at the start, the people we used at the start were great. They held our hand and we understood the process, and they massively were very, very influential in how we grew the business to start off with. If we knew what we knew now, we'd have went straight to a bigger production at the start and not wasted tens of thousands of pounds in small production runs, and just went a bit bigger and got the price point from the start. As I said, the people we're with now is like a turnkey, so they do all the procurement, they blend the liquid for us, and then we send it to our canners. So even that time-saving exercise, you know, so I'm not trying to coordinate 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10 fruit flavor houses to get the run done. You know, it's like, there's your money, make it happen, you know. So it frees you up to do other things as well. And again, that's trial and error. I mean, we had some horror show runs at the start, which cost us a lot of money. So I'm not going to name names because that's not what we're here to do, you know what I mean? But it's like we went to somebody who didn't carbonate any of our cocktails and sent them all flat, back up flat to us. We had a canner who got the CO2 levels wrong and the cans came up half full. Do you know? So, which from your time in our runs also, and we're doing better than we are, and our levels of waste and confidence in the co-packer is great now, you know, but that cost us a double run in our second summer. Do you know?
Wow. And you're producing to order effectively, aren't you?
Yeah. So that was, and again, sadly, these people don't really take any much responsibility for it.
So finding the right partners is really key.
Massive. Yeah, massive.
Yeah.
If you find that right partner and you get that relationship, it's always good to have contingencies, of course, but I think that lets you grow with them. So they see you growing from where you are to where you're going. So we are now doing, instead of 1,000 litres every SKU, we're doing 3,000 litres every SKU every time. So we went from 4,000 litre runs to 12,000 litre runs, so all that's, there's also incremental revenue for them as well. On our books, we're doing good, but we also know that we're still very much a growing player in the field. People are believing what we're doing. They can see the promise in the brand, and there's a lot of belief behind us, and people love seeing what we're doing. But when you go from being a 5-figure account to a 6-figure account with somebody, that's not insignificant to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like all of a sudden, you're not calling the shots by any stretch of imagination, but you're significant. You become significant to that other balance sheet and that other P&L. So. But again, they've loved seeing us growing to that with them as well. They go, do you know what, we love it. So we give them so they've now got all their MPD, so they see the potential. We trust you with our new products. So that 6-figure revenue becomes more 6-figure revenue because we've got another 2 SKUs we're going to do with you. So it's like, I think with anything, it's like, I'm a great believer in building relationships. Like, but again, you've got to come and go. And again, the way the world's turning, you're not going to get credit terms straight away. And we are still pro forma with a lot of our accounts just because that's just the way the world is just now, So. But you build that trust and you build that relationship when you go, okay, do you know what? Let's do 70-30. Let's do 60-40. So they see that you're a good customer. They see that you're growing. They see what's going on. And they see the LinkedIn updates about the TransPennines and the ScotRails and the WH50. You go, all right, okay, you are.
Yeah.
You are trying. You are growing. You are doing what you're saying.
You're being proactive. You're proactively going out.
Massively. And again, that's still, the grind never stops. I think the second you get complacent, think you've made it, somebody else will take your shelf space.
Absolutely.
And again, we laugh and joke about it, but rightly or wrongly, I do sometimes wish these celebs would just stick in their lane and stop bringing out like the RTD. It's like, it's like that's not going to make any difference to you. Do you know what I mean? That's it's like, actually, I think it's like the whole craft movement. People do it well when they do it slightly small to start with and build that kind of following, and the flavors are better and we're interested. It's. Yeah, we're very much a cocktail, not a spirit mixer. So that kind of differentiation as well. So there's all that kind of stuff as well. But no, I think the more you grow, the more pressure there is to facilitate, the more pressure there is to keep everybody on track. It's essentially myself and Fraser, who's my sales guy. There's 2 of us.
Yeah.
We've got an events team that come on board as well, kind of freelance and do the events with us, but actually driving the sales and driving the account management.
So if there's somebody listening, so who is at the market direct to consumer phase and they're thinking, I really want to expand this now beyond, direct to consumer markets, what words of advice could you give them in terms of, starting that process?
To kick off with, almost don't overthink it. Do you know what I mean? Don't go in, because the overthinking becomes robotic. Hi, Michael. I have a call. Would you like to stop, Michael? It's like, but again, be honest, tell your story. Say, look, we've had a really successful 6-month events, and we're just, we're really keen to see if you're interested in taking us on your shelves. Our first customer, it'd be really exciting to get involved with you. We live 20 minutes away. I've been coming for my breakfast for the last 10 years. You know me. Oh, I know you're.
Yeah.
So maybe find someone you've got a connection with. It's again, people buy people, and people love a story. People.
And be humble, I suppose, as well. Like you said, be honest. We're relatively new, but we're growing, and we know that people love what we're doing.
I would say again, because your first listing's going to be an independent. That's probably what's going to happen. But I would say know your numbers slightly better than we knew our numbers when we went in. And have that kind of expectation and margins, because at some point you're going to have to talk nitty gritty about it and what you're going to achieve for them, and that's, but I think tell your story first, let them engage with you before the brand, let them understand why you've done it, what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, and sort of take it from there. And invariably somebody knows somebody, so do you know what, that's great. And do you know what, see Tracy down the road, she'd love your stuff as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, that's so, that's a really good point, isn't it?
So it's a community. It's like the events. You build a community around yourself that want to support. I mean, I don't see my pal who's got a gin company as a competition, because we're both at a scale where we can be in the same kind of shelf space and they'll have fun. It's when you see the £1.50 cocktails on the shelf that's what affects us. Do you know? But actually, the people who are trying to do the craft stuff and trying to still do the stuff well and still do it a bit more independently, we're there for each other. You know, I mean, how many WhatsApp groups are you on? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, so there's all that, and I think it's also having the confidence to say, I'm struggling here. I'm not sure what I'm doing or what I've done wrong, because I keep on getting those and nobody's giving me feedback, or, you know, or this is the feedback, how do I change it? You know, so how do we get on board with it? I think sometimes it's just having the confidence to go, do you know what? Work out what your margin needs to be and be okay with that, because you'll grow on that. Do you know what I mean? So I would rather sell you 10,000 cocktails at 40% than 500 cocktails at 60%.
Yeah.
Do you know? So actually, if your mindset is growth, then grow with that. You know, don't be scared to kind of go, actually, do you know what? That's how we grow the business.
Yeah.
Because we'll still get our higher margin at the events. So it becomes that blended margin of 55-60%, which, let's face it, in this day and age is all right.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Right, Mike, before we close out, I asked this question because you never know who's listening.
Yeah.
So what's the dream? So who is next on your wish list that you would take, not only your wife, Fraser, the whole of Scotland, to view this listing in situ? Who is that?
You know, I think we are focused really hard on travel, and we're trying to land our first kind of out-of-home restaurant partner. So that's what we're kind of focusing on there. So if anybody's listening that has a nice wee couple of restaurants or looking to do some cocktail stuff there, then yeah, we'd love to speak, love to get in touch with you. And then building on the train travel, looking to get into ferries, cruise ships, you know, airport lounges, that kind of thing there. So that's how we're going there. But, you know, also I think if the guys from Klondike are listening, get in touch. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we don't have one specific target in mind, because with the RTDs or RTSs, they serve so many end occasions, so many different people, that I think to be laser focused on one, you lose the opportunities either side of it. So I think Fraser and I will kind of split ourselves. I'll focus on travel and wholesale. He'll be focusing out at home, you know, so we have our own kind of destinations to get to. But I think with Angels there, what you're getting is that real cocktail experience that no other brand is giving you. They're really not. You know, you'll get your porn stars, you'll get your espresso martinis, you'll get all these things here, but we're giving you something different. And I think that's what's been key to our growth, is the difference in believing that we are different and we can do something different for you. I think that's why we have the ability to be something for lots of different.
Thank you so much for joining me today. We shall put in the show notes the links to connect with you and Fraser on LinkedIn, and also how to find out more about Angel's Dare Cocktails and the journeys that you've been on so far. We'll also put the link to your first ever retail stockist, because it's important to show them the love. So thank you so much for joining me today, Michael. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.